Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Welcome to the Wolves Fancast review show of Aston Villa 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. Brought to you by the Sports Social Podcast Network. It's a little bit, damp, a squib in terms of how we're all feeling, and frustration is probably the key word going into tonight's episode. But hopefully we get some good debate, some good opinions going, and some good conversation about how we move ahead from the position that we're in, and how we can have a little bit of positivity going into the next couple of weeks, and how we can go up as a club from here. What feels like probably rock bottom. So joining me tonight you got Stu, Ishan, and Gav. How are you doing, guys? I'll come to you first, Stu. How are you feeling after yesterday's day trip to Birmingham?
You know, I got home at 7:30. 2.5 hours back from Villa Park. What a joy. I got a head cold. It was wonderful. The best part of the day, as per usual, I had a steady gallon before the game, as you do. And yeah, that was it. and now I've got a cold, and people are already mocking me for wearing a hat inside. I know this happens, but it was either wearing a hat or wearing them yellow glasses again, and I'm not going there. So no, it's just one disaster after another. But at least the Jets won. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and how are you, Ishan? I believe you just come back from London. The Joshua fight. How you feeling after that disappointment and yesterday's disappointment at Villa Park?
Well, yeah, I haven't had the best weekend. Obviously, Joshua losing and Wolves losing to Villa, and both in devastating ways. But I do feel like Wolves can come back. I think we did. I think the games that we have lost, we have played well in the first half, which is the most important thing. And I think I'm happy that we're doing this at the start of the season instead of in the middle or towards the end. But there's a few things that I do think needs to be fixed and addressed.
And how about you, Gav? I know you were there yesterday with your family. Your voice probably a little bit raspier than it could be. Normally there was a lot of shouting, a lot of abuse thrown at the referee. How are you feeling, bud?
Yeah, my head's still banging, honestly. I mean, we'll go into it in a bit with that referee, bloody hell. To be fair, I was probably moaning more at him than about anything else, to be fair. As bad as the performance was in that second half, the referee didn't help. So, yeah, recovering, to say the least.
Yeah, that sounds good. But before we get more into the game, as always, as the Fancast this season, we've been looking to sort of reach out and do some things that interact with more of you, our fans, and people that we talk to. So we have got the FC Quiz app. There is always a fresh quiz that comes out every Friday. So test a little bit of your Wolves knowledge amongst your friends and amongst ourselves as well. The people who are joining on our Dean and Little Dan are very much involved in that. And this season we brought out brand new merch, some fantastic designs that are on there. You're going to see more of it around from ourselves as we wear it on shows and at games. So if you are interested in seeing more of the design merch and having some idea of what we do and what we're trying to put out there, it's wolvesfancast.tmill.com. That's wolvesfancast.teemill.com. Okay, back to the game. We'll start with the team, the team lineups. Going into it, there was a little bit of talk with Nuri potentially not being in the squad, Totti not being in the squad, and then how we solve a problem like a three-man midfield. I'll come to you first, Stu, because I think you'll probably have the strongest opinion on terms of formation. So how did you feel looking at that team sheet come Q2?
See, I know you're trying to bait me, and I'm not going to fall for today. And I know Gully's waiting as well. But I was just so bored of it now. The whole 4-5-3, it's all the same. I mean, I thought actually yesterday was the first signs of it actually working all right. But looking at that beforehand, I thought, well, okay, we've kind of got no choice now because if we play all three of our only central defenders, then we are completely screwed if it goes wrong. So it kind of did make sense yesterday. I just don't think. I mean, the fact that we've got video evidence of João Gomez saying he can't play in a 3 is bad enough in itself. The fact that we now signed someone who we didn't need just to make a few quid next summer, which is what he's here for, is a problem in itself. And then you've got Lamina, who hasn't played well really at all season long, the same as João Gomez. And Tommy Doyle did okay on Wednesday night. But then not many did they? So it's one of them. And then Bellegarde. It's just there's so many options that could potentially be put into that team. You look at other Gomez, Rodrigo Gomez in pre-season looked like a world beater, hardly featured. Forbes, it's probably going to take time. Guedes has played well first half. Brighton back on the bench again. And you look at like Strand Larsen, he doesn't get service, so fair enough. You give him another go. He'd run the channels well in the games beforehand, but he was like, okay, this is the formation that we've got to play now. This is the players that you look as first choice, maybe other than Bellegarde really in them lot. So I was willing to give it benefit of the doubt, albeit not having much confidence whatsoever.
Mm. Yeah.
I think you kind of led me quite nicely onto the next point that I wanted to talk about by talking about, say, Lamina's not had a very good season. So going off that statement there, Gav, do you feel that there is a big problem within what O'Neill's doing right now, which is sort of square pegs in round holes? Lamina is being asked to do a role that he's probably not so comfortable with. And then we've got Aït-Nouri, who we know isn't really an out-and-out fullback. He's more of a wing-back. Do you feel like we have a problem with putting players into positions where they're not probably the most comfortable?
Yeah, I think the problem that we've got at the minute is, I think I mentioned it in the preview, really. I think with the three midfielders that we got, they're all ball winners, but they're not ball playing midfielders, if that makes any sense. I mean, they're all, they can play, none of them can really break the lines, can they, realistically? Either carrying the ball or playing passes, which is why I was probably advocating for Doyle to go in, just because he's a bit better on the ball. He can switch the play at times when it needs to be. I think Lamina, Andre, and João Gomez haven't really got that in them, really. So I think that it's not a balanced midfield, in my opinion. And obviously, like you said, Lamina's been playing like apparently people are saying he's playing in a 10. I'll be honest, I don't know where he played because he was on the left wing at one point as well with Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri, as good as he is going forward, I think that left back position, he is a bit stifled. Right? He doesn't get the opportunity to go forward as much as he can. So it's a hard situation really at the minute.
I think the key word there that you said was balance, and I think looking at the balance of this squad, we have now sort of the luxury of spoils on that bench, and having a good squad is fantastic, really. But looking at that, Asian, how can you build a team that has more balance? So who do you bring in to make that midfield a little bit more, as Gav was talking about, having those people who could break the lines, play progressive football instead of having three destroyers, as it were?
Yeah, I agree with Gav. I think we need to play Tommy Doyle. I don't know why he wasn't playing. And to be honest with you, I think that's actually, for me, the best starting team that we've put out this season.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people probably will disagree with me over that, but I do, because I think people know I'm not the biggest fan of Totti. I don't think he can play in a back four. And I think that's probably one of the best teams to put out this season.
And as you said earlier when we were doing the intro, that we started well, good first half again. It's frustrating because we are in the ascendancy in recent games, and if we've come straight into the game, I mean the early chance fell to Wolves. I believe it was Lamina with the header. It's a very good chance, isn't it, Ishan?
Yeah. That's what I've been saying. Like the first half, I honestly think the first half of every single game of the season, if I'm not wrong, we've played by like Chelsea. We could have nicked a point. We could have got a win there. Forest, very similar. Villa game yesterday, we could have won. But the problem is, every single time we get towards the second half, we capitulate. And I don't want to slander players or single players out, but I think Totti, he's weakness at the back, and I think Aitonori as well. If you look at the 3 goals yesterday, a couple of them weren't his fault, but it's down his side every single time. The guy, he would be a better left winger than left back, in my opinion, in this formation. He can't play left back.
I mean, you look at was it the second one where it came over and Lamina was the one marking at left back?
Yeah.
And why is Lamina there? Where's Aït-Nouri gone again? And that was like you said, especially against Chelsea, when all 3 of the goals in the second half came from his side, and it was the same again. Where had he gone?
But I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but this is where I get annoyed at the club, because I don't understand the transfer strategy. We've got our left back, who's very clearly weakly in defence. He's weak at defence, and then just before the season starts, we're allowing out another left back that we got. I don't understand the thinking. We've changed formation for a new season. We haven't recruited in the way you should in this formation, and our only other left back we've had, we've put him out on loan.
Yeah,
I don't understand the club's transfer strategy. I don't understand if it's Gary O'Neill or the club that do it. I really don't understand.
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of frustration with it amongst fans now, especially because of what happened yesterday. And I mean, we'll go into it a little bit with the Mosquera situation. So that's put a lot of a bitter taste in Wolves fans' mouths. But let's not let's not bemoan too much the problems with yesterday and the bad things about yesterday. But we scored another goal from outside the box, Stu. Fortuitous, I know, but hard work again from the boys, pressing from the front, and Cunha, fantastic strike to beat Emi Martinez from there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, this is what happens when you press people who want to play it from the back. Who would have thought? But yeah, I mean, it's a rare stroke of luck as well, going in off the post rather than hitting the inside of the post and trickling across the line. Like you kind of expect as this season's gone so far. But we were only talking last week or the week before, weren't we, that we don't have players who can score goals from outside the box anymore, other than Tommy Doyle. And now this happens, and it's almost instinctive in a way that he runs onto it and just hits it first time. I think, yeah, there you go. That's what you're good at. No second or third touch and letting Martinez get settled. It's the pace of the shot and the taking it first time that's beat him in the end.
Yeah.
The first time we showed up any sort of composure, haven't we, in a situation where we've been gifted an opportunity? Normally, if that would happen, it's panic stations. Cunha gets the ball, he'll probably look for a pass, and then the chance is gone, isn't it? It's the first time where they've actually gone on the front foot and they've taken advantage of the mistake that they've been presented, really.
Yeah. And the only other sort of positive, I guess, from the first half was the man that we've already spoken about a little bit already, was Ryan Aït-Nouri. He had a chance in the Gav where he kind of scuffed it a little bit. It kind of went through the defender's legs and just went narrowly wide. Was your head in your hands at that moment?
Yeah, honestly, I thought it's one of those. If he hits, it doesn't look like he hits it very clean, does he? He's hit it like, he hasn't hit it, got full connection on it. And I think if he does, I reckon that probably goes in. I think he took a deflection. The ball's come up in the air and it's landed for him, and he has got bodies in the way. So it wasn't exactly an easy shot, to be fair. But if that goes in 2-0 up before half time, it's a different game, isn't it?
I think so. I think there's a certain level of confidence that's needed in a lot of these players currently, and I think a couple of goal lead against a side like this is only going to do good. They might still do what Everton have done in recent weeks and give up leads and potentially lose games, but at least there are some positives you can take from this, but it's becoming few and far between. It's kind of a broken record. Before we get into the second half, and I want to get through the Villa goals really quickly. I don't want to talk too much on them because there's a lot to talk about outside of the actual game itself. But looking at how we were at half-time there, Asian, did you feel there was a lot of pressure on the boys going into that second half that we hadn't sort of killed the game off?
No. I think we played well. I don't think there's any pressure on the lads. I just think we capitulate, and I don't know why, but it's very evident that the games this season, second half, the team struggle, the boys struggle. So I don't know why.
Yeah, it's strange because we talk about sound bites a lot, Stu, and we've become a sort of a team of very, very iconic sound bites for all the wrong reasons this season. And the one that I'll focus on straight away before we talk about the second half is Lamina. And when he used the two words that echo in my mind now for the rest of this season is loser's mentality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that make you feel, Stu? Looking at the last two games, particularly, just focus on those two. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it says it on the ticker there. It's not just 2 games; it's 2 wins in 18. And we can say all we want, and people can slag us off, and people can moan about we're bringing last season into it. But it's the same manager, and it's 95% of the same team, so it does count. And the losing mentality started at Coventry when their bottle dropped, and you look, we haven't recovered from that game. We just haven't. And you saw it with. It was the same with Nuno in the cup semi final. After that, it was like, well, hey, this team can't be trusted anymore. And like when you were saying, like you were saying then about half time, I had nothing about him. And my mum turned to me and said, "You know what's going to happen now?" You think, well, yeah, Emery's going to turn it round because that's the kind of manager that he is. He's reactive and he can change things. Whereas I know we'll come on to subs and stuff in a bit, but Lamina is nothing but honest, and he's shown that his whole time here, maybe to his detriment sometimes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And him saying that is what we've seen. And it's anyone with eyes can see that we've got a problem here. And if it's Gary O'Neill that's the problem, who knows? But he's right. We can't, every time something remotely bad goes against us, they completely crumble, all of them. And I know Liam King, especially on the poddy, saying that it's an emotional side. Well, it's not good enough. You can be an emotional side and you can win. You can't be an emotional side and fucking lose every week, and you can't be an emotional side and blame. Oh, we're so hard done by the betting. Look at the odds. It's fucking shit. It's ridiculous. No. And Mario Lamina was absolutely spot on. Yeah, we've all seen it, and there's no hiding from it. And then when you look at the comments that O'Neill came out with that whole odds thing and teams above us, and then that Newcastle go to Fulham and get done by 2 of our old boys. It's not a good look, is it? No, it's not a good look. And having players that are willing to speak out is a good thing, because we don't want media trained robots. We've had enough of them. Yeah. And there's reasons why people like James Maddison didn't get in Southgate's England side, because he's outspoken. Mario Lamina, club captain, comes out and says that about your team. There's only one person at fault there. And that Gary O'Neill had all this pre-season to himself, his first ever pre-season, and we look less fit than we ever have done. We've got a set-piece coach who's made things worse. This is all... It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And he was on. He said he was right.
I wouldn't stick it on one problem, though. I would say it's a combination of things.
I
think it was very evident last season that he wanted to change to a back 4, which I actually agree with, because if you want to be a top Premier League side, you have to do that. You would never see Man City in the Champions League final play a back 5. But I think the issue is that he's done that, but then there hasn't been any preparation behind it. There hasn't been any signings behind it. His tactics, I don't really know them, I'll be honest with you. So he needs to, it needs to be sorted out. I do agree with Stu there.
I think just going back on the Lamina comment just for a second, sorry. It's just concerning, isn't it? I think if you're saying stuff like that at the start of the season, after I think he said that after 4 games, and if you're saying you got a loser mentality and you got City, Liverpool, and Brighton coming up next, it's like you ain't got a chance, have you? And then Gary O'Neill's on about the odds. It's like he's basically saying any team that we're going to come up against that are higher than us in the table, it's an automatic loss. Is essentially what he's saying. You know what I mean? It's like default 3-0. You've quit the game. You've right quit. It's 3-0. It's basically what he's done. It's basically what he's saying. You know what I mean? If we're going in, it's almost as if like, all right, lads, we're not expecting to win here, but if we get anything, it's a bonus. You know what I mean? Really, you should be trying to win every single game that you play. Doesn't matter who it is. But for him, it's almost as if like, you know what? It was Brighton. They're a good team. We're expected to lose anyway. And I think if you're coming up with stuff like that at the start of the season, it ain't looking good. Basically, I'll just say that.
It's more weird the fact that we did the double over Chelsea and Spurs last season, So he's going against his own evidence.
It don't make sense. It honestly doesn't make sense. And that means, imagine if Nuno in that first year in the Premier League, if he just settled for taking losses. We approached every game, no matter who it was. We always tried to win, even if it was it's a little bit more, what do you call it, pragmatic. It was still an approach to win the game, wasn't it? Whereas Gary O'Neill is almost as if all right, we're playing these guys. If we lose, it don't matter. You know what I mean? That's how it comes across now for me.
About his Chelsea comments about, we lost to £1 billion squad.
Yes,
it's like, come on, man. These guys get paid 60 grand a week to play football. Go out there and play football.
It was £1 billion squad last year.
Yeah.
And we beat them twice.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's concerning. It really is for me. And right now at the minute, I mean, I like Gary O'Neill. I think, Javo, you'll probably go on to it in a minute, but coming up with these comments, I've actually got time for him. It's the comments that are doing it for me now. That's making me lose a little bit of patience. It's not even like Ishan said, we haven't been that bad. We've been losing games, of course, but we haven't played. It's not like we've created no chances or we don't look like scoring. Could we do? It's just the comments that he's coming out with now, which is more concerning for me.
Yeah. Great. So we'll talk more about Gary O'Neill after we just finish about the second half, and then we can go more into detail about how we feel the club's going to go into it.
Yeah.
I know, Gav, I feel the same. I don't really want to talk about it because it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But we got to get through it. We've got to get through the second half.
Let's go for it.
Once again, stubs, mistakes, silly moments. Looking at it, Stu. I know the ball bounces off Lamina. They've worked it through, and Watkins. Okay, it's a great finish, but there's a lot to bemoan the 15 seconds prior to that goal.
Yeah, I mean, of the three, I didn't have as much of a problem with this one. It was just the fact that it was coming, and everyone knew it was coming, other than Gary O'Neill. They were on top, and they fully deserved it at the time. And then I had a text off a Bolton mate of mine at half time saying, "How has this happened?" I went, "Well, you wait." And then he said he's come out of the ground thinking that we've won 1-0. And then you look at that and he said, well, where's that come from? And then you look at the stats and we had a shot second half. It was coming all along. And I don't buy into the luck thing anymore. It's like you create your own luck. And yeah, the deflection went well for us. And the deflection in the first half with Ait-Nouri went against us. But that's just how it is. I mean, this was just... Where's the midfield, for one? Who knows? Because they're all treading over each other. And to be fair, when I said about Andre earlier, I don't mean that he's probably been our best player, probably been our player of the season. He's played 2.5 games. He's superb, but he needs to be with Tommy Doyle and no one else. That is it. Don't put him with anyone else because he's superb. But they're all in each other's way. Like, no one knows where they're supposed to be. And then you look at what happened later on, and then I know someone put it up as if you got a back five there and you look at the top, the third defender would be there. Maybe. But I'm so far past the back 3, 4, 5 thing, like I said earlier. I don't really care anymore. They know what they're supposed to be doing and they're not doing it. And there's no closing down. And when they do close down, they don't close down as a pack, as we're constantly told. They do it individually, which is wrong because what happens then? You leave space. And if you're not pressing together, then it's pointless. And that's what happened there.
And I think there's an inevitability with Wolves at the moment that once one comes, they're very much like buzzies, to use a cliche, and one follows very soon after. And then Ezri Konsa, and we already touched on it earlier, scoring from the back post. Where the hell was Ryan Ait-Nouri, Gav?
To be fair, I'm trying to pick him out on the picture. I can't even see him. It's a shocker, isn't it? I mean, Lamina's there. I mean, you could argue that, there's someone making the run at the back post. Should Lamina still get in front of him? I still think Lamina can do better there, but at the same time, he could be somewhere else and Ait-Nouri could be at the back, you know what I mean? Or there could be 2 people at the back at the end of the day. And, ball over the top. It's just a basic goal, isn't it? I mean, how many times did we ever do stuff like that, putting a ball to the back post? I can't even remember the last time we scored a goal like that, to be fair, you know what I mean? And it's not like Villa split us apart. It was a hopeful ball into the box at the end of the day, isn't it? It is just a lack of concentration there, more than anything. Disappointing goal to concede that one.
Yeah, and as it goes, the mentality, as we've already spoken about drops. There's always a big, feeling amongst the fans. It happens to the team as well as the fans, but the fans, I know their heads drop immediately when the first goal goes in, let alone the second. And then the third one, probably the most dangerous substitute in the league at the moment in John Duran.
Yeah.
Talk us through it, Ishan. Talk us through the goal, because it was painful to watch.
With the second goal, once again, where is Aitonori? It's basic defending. I honestly think we could go on that pitch. I know for myself, I could go on that pitch and defend better than some of these lads. And it's basic defending. And I've said it the last few weeks. And whether I'm going to be next on the shows, I'll probably say it again. It's basic defending. The lads need to fix up at the back. I can't say anything else. It's basic. Very basic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a problem, and I think you used the word earlier, Gav, and I think the word pragmatic comes into it. And the one thing is it's fantastic to be able to play football in the nice way, play pretty football, attacking, passing football, and try and be progressive and want to play with the back four and want to create chances. But if you are not doing the pragmatic things right and the simple things right, then you are going to come unstuck, and you've got to try and set up a team that can do the very basics right. And going it after the game, we just don't seem to be able to do that over 90 minutes, do we, Stu? And I don't know. I know you talked about fitness earlier, but do you think that? Because I'm going to go straight back onto O'Neill now. We've finished sort of talking about the game. Do you think this is O'Neill's problem, or do you think this is the players' problem?
It's everyone's problem. But the book stops with him. And you look at that, bring that stat thing back up for the audio people. You look at that attempts on goal in the second half. They had 8 to our none. No shots. How can you have no shots in a whole half of football? In the first half, neither did they. But then we battered them in the first half, and we got unlucky. So, but it's not. Everything comes back to the mentality, doesn't it? Like we said, and it's not as though words are hurting our feelings. It's the fact that it's true. And you look at it and you think, well, someone put in the comments there that when Gary O'Neill came in, he said that the team were unfit because of Lopetegui, and this team looks even less fit than that team did.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Doesn't make any sense. But I don't know what goes through his head. The subs yesterday were awful. And when you're at that point in the game, you take your only striker off. That says all that's. It's more now of sending a message than anything else. If he's come out in the press and said what he said, what are the players going to think of that? Yeah, we get it that behind closed doors, different things are said, blah blah blah. But it's what it looks like. It's not good. And then you look at the fact that the players can't run. And they get took off, and then when they get took off, nothing changes. So when was the last time we made a sub that made a difference? Last season. It hasn't happened this season.
Sarabia against Tottenham, probably when he come off the bench, scored an assist.
Exactly.
That's probably it. Yeah.
We don't. We have subs to make them for the sake of it. We have to. We've got a quota. We don't do anything with them.
For the Villa game, I think it was a little bit. I think we haven't actually mentioned it yet, but the ref. He didn't really help us, did he? I mean, João Gomez getting to be fair, he did put, he probably did deserve the yellow card. That's not the point. But I think that the fact that he got it so early, same as Aitonori and Semedo in that factor as well, it does, players have to be careful. We know what João Gomez is like. He's aggressive, isn't he? He'll try and win the ball as much as he can. As soon as he gets a yellow card that early for something daft, it kind of, Gary O'Neill has to, I think he does have to consider that, because there is a risk of him getting sent off if he had stayed on, to be honest. And then the fact that Villa were in the same situation, because Onana, I mean, I'm not going to say it now. He should have had a booking in the first half easily. He got away with it. 3 or 4 times there were yellow card incidences, and he didn't give him nothing. And you know what I mean. And Emery ended up taking him off because he probably knew he was going to get a booking soon. So I think that the way that the ref managed the game probably forced his hand a little bit, not too much. But at the same time, when we were sitting back. That was probably a time to make a change before they scored. Because as soon as the second half started, we didn't look like scoring at all, did we, really? It was backs against the wall. I mean, I know we played well up until 60 minutes, but in that second half, like Stu said, didn't have a shot. I can't even remember us getting into the box at all until Guedes when he came on in the second half.
I mean, you look at, if you go from an opposition point of view now, you look at this, how Wolves have played this season, you say, well, okay, just give them the first half hour. Just let them do what they want in the first half hour. Nothing will happen. They might get 1 or 2 goals, but we'll just steamroll them and they'll fall apart and then we'll win anyway. Yeah. A bit like what we used to do with the Nuno when we used to win games in the second half.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite now because we're so soft that how easy is it to play against this team? Like someone said there, people keep saying that we're waiting for the easy teams to come, but the easy teams are waiting to play us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. I mean, looking at what you just said with the word soft there, Stu, I'll flip it around a little bit. Talking about the referee's performance and the yellow cards that we got, do you think? We'll go around and we'll talk about this a little bit. But do you think that the way that we settle with combative midfielders and the fact that we're getting yellow cards early in games is sort of tying our hands behind our backs a little bit, and means that we kind of are putting ourselves into a corner, so that we can't play in a certain aggressive way, and we have to stand off. We have to give away chances because we can't be combative after, say, 20, 30 minutes.
Well, don't do it then. There's a simple explanation, isn't there? If something happens all the time, just stop doing it and do something else. And I know what you're saying, that if we're playing this up and atom aggressive style, that there's going to be consequences. But if the consequences mean that we have to lose every week because we can't go further than an hour because everyone's all booked, then it's not going to work. So I really don't understand any of what's going on, because you go from one disaster to the next, and then you think that's fixed, and then something else happens, and the whole thing just seems a mess.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's certain, like, we're limiting ourselves in what we can actually achieve. Is that how you feel, Gab? Do you feel like we're kind of limiting ourselves with the tools that we have? We could be doing so much more.
Yeah, I think just going back on the whole being aggressive sort of thing, I think that is João Gomez. I think Gary O'Neill does give I think the players have spoken about it. He does give the players the expression to play how they want to play. And that's why Aït-Nouri was so good at last year. He had it wasn't told to stay back so much. He was like given a free role to go forward, wasn't he? So he does give them that, he lets them off the leash a little bit. And with João Gomez, I think he is naturally an aggressive player. I think he is a walking yellow card, isn't he? I think before we had say, so honestly, I'll put him on my bet builders every week. João Gomez for a booking. You do, don't you? Just because that is the way he is. He is aggressive. He puts his foot in. He does give away a lot of free kicks. But at the same time, he wins the ball a lot as well, doesn't he? So, in regards to that, it's aggressive. That's something he has to work on, rather than Gary O'Neill saying, let's not be as aggressive as a team. I think individually, that is the way he plays. And I forgot the question. What you asked me? I forgot the
question. You pretty much answered it anyway. So, I mean, looking at what we're sort of talking about with this combativeness and wanting to make tackles, because we have 3 midfielders there who want to make tackles. Previously, in that position, we had João Moutinho, Ruben Neves. I don't like going too much on the past, but like looking at Ruben Neves' issue. He's somebody who topped the charts in interceptions in the league when he was here.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Is it we're missing somebody who can read the game and have sort of experience in that position? And surely Mario Lemina should be that, but we don't seem to be doing it.
I agree, but the problem is with Neves, especially with the size of the club size of Wolves, you're never going to get a player like Neves for cheap. It's going to cost you 68. I mean, he's a great player. But I think the issue is the reason why he's playing the 3 midfielders he's playing yesterday is because he doesn't have confidence in the defence. That's the issue. Yeah. And there's a lot of things could say, but regarding the question, I think I've just answered it.
I think so, yeah. And I think that there is this sort of pressure on the side. And I'd like to come on to Gary O'Neill now a little bit more in his post-match comments. And it seems like these sound bites are so basic, and there's a certain level of naivety to it, Stu. And he sort of looks like somebody who's not been managing. I know he hasn't been managing for a long period of time. He doesn't have a lot of experience under his belt, but his naivety is starting to come true. And looking at the statement for those watching on YouTube, are on the screen right now. It's the lads are finding out the hard way at the moment that you can't just play well for a bit, fight and scrap, and do well in duels for most of it, because the little ones, when they're not doing well in the moment, are costing us. So basically, you sum it up as we're not doing enough, and then we're fucking ourselves in games. That's what you're reading from that, Stu.
I mean, all you have to do is put, we need to find the arrow of the tiger, and that's Dean Saunders from 10 years ago. I mean, yeah. I'm taking the piss, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing. Anyone could come out with that. It's like Football Manager, kind of opposition manager AI comment.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the blatantly obvious. We know this, but they're not doing the little things right. But neither is he. He's not. There's very few times he's held his hands up and said, "Yeah, it's on me." Sometimes he has, fair enough. But that was on him yesterday. It was completely on him yesterday. Emery changed it round and he didn't respond again. And he's never been one to be. I mean, again, he's got get out of jail card is that he's still young at this, and he's still relatively young manager in terms of games in charge of. And like this comment there, the Bournemouth fans warned us this is what it was like against teams again after a certain point, that he couldn't motivate players and all this stuff. But you look at some of the things he said and you think,
yeah,
what do you want? But then he goes on Monday Night Football last season, he's brilliant, gets countrywide praise, and then things turn around and blah 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 blah. After Ipswich last year, I booed him off as well. I admit it, because it was awful. It was terrible. Yeah. And at that point, you couldn't see anything changing. And then the Man City game happens, and then blah blah blah. We do well for 5 months, but then why is it happening again? Why do we have to start so shambolically that we now need some miracle to change all our fortunes again for the rest of the season? Because what he's doing isn't working, and he can't keep talking. He can't keep coming out and talking bollocks. And especially like you just said about the 3-man midfield thing. If you know that João Gomes is walking the yellow card, which he is, you know that Andre is going to put his foot in, and you know Lamina's the same. Put one of them on the bench, so when one of them gets booked, you can change them for the other one.
Yeah,
it's so fucking simple. And the fact, like Ishan said as well, which is spot on, the fact that he's overcompensating for the fact that he's fucked the defense up. It's not a little bit, we can't defend in a 4, because we can to some extent. But the fact that he's fucked this defense up playing, he didn't get backed, fine. But the moment he didn't get backed, which it never happened after Kilman was sold, we never had one here. So until that moment came in, why is he continuing playing this way? Because then you're changing your midfield, and you're changing your strikers, and you're changing your wing backs just to play a back 4, which has now conceded 17 goals in 6 games. I mean, it's not just playing the 4 that's the problem. It's the whole team that's a mess.
To be honest, I don't agree with all that. I do disagree a bit. What I would say is that attacking wise, I honestly do believe we're a top 8 side. Attacking wise, we are very good and we've got good players. But then defensively, we are weak. But he hasn't been backed. But the problem is we can't change it now at this point. Because if he changes to a back 5, he looks weak. And the players, the whole pre-season they've played for at the back. So will they be able to cope again? And to be honest, with the injury yesterday, can we go back to 5 at the back?
No, we can't, can we?
No.
The academy lads. Yeah. So that's the issue. We need to stick to our guns here, I think, at this point. But we need to get the defenders in, and we didn't. So it's on the board. And that with that one.
I think the problem is like, if we keep going the way we're going, he has to swallow his pride at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do to get results, to win games. And that's, even if that means, okay, scrap the playing at the back, we're just going to go long, just hit Strand Larson, win the second balls. Just do it at the end of the day. I'll be honest, I do not care how we play.
No.
I do not care. As long as we win games, I don't care. I'd have Sean Dyche, Tony Pulis, I'd have all of them. If we got top 8, top 7, we could shithouse 1-0 wins every single week. I would not give a flying fuck.
Yeah, I think this. Yeah, I think 80-90% of the fan base have probably been in the same position, Gav. And I think it's frustrating because we all can see that we can be doing better, because this squad on paper is better than what Nuno had.
Yeah,
on paper. the attackers, okay, maybe there's some, you'd argue that Jimenez in his prime was better than Strand Larson, and a couple of the other players maybe are on par. But the tools at Gary O'Neill's disposal, he's got an absolute arsenal to play with. And looking at it, how do we get forward from here? Like, I'll come straight back to you, Gav. How do we come back from here? What is going to be the tipping point where Gary O'Neill either goes forward with this team and takes them up the mountain and leads them to success, or he has to walk away into the darkness and be a League One manager?
I think the Liverpool game is going to be big because we'll see how he changes his approach. You know what I mean? I think if he decides to sit back and hit him on the counter, it's a hard one, really. Like you said, he's got all the options in the world, hasn't he? But it feels like he's got. I mean, Hwang didn't come on, did he? On the weekend, and last year they were best mates. You know what I mean? He'd play he would never drop him.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden he's not even coming off the bench. So it's like, has he changed his mind on certain players? Does he not? Sarabi is another one. I think, to be fair, we've got more options this year, so he doesn't need to play him. Whereas last year he had to play him. He didn't have a choice. But maybe that's his problem. Maybe he's got too many choices, and nobody can't decide what to do. You know what I mean? But going forward, it's hard. It's hard.
There's something in there because that happened with Nuno, didn't it? When as soon as he had choices, he couldn't cope.
Yeah.
We had fit players.
Nuno would love it. He'd play that same 11 for the whole season if he could. and ultimately, the fitness thing, it's not sustainable. You need players that can fill in. But he loved the small squad. And with Gary O'Neill, I mean, we don't really know if he likes a big squad, small squad. But I think it feels like he tinkers a lot, doesn't he? Now, Gary O'Neill. I think there's always going to be a change in there somewhere. He needs to find an 11 that he's going to be settled with and stick with them. Because even the subs, at least with Nuno, you know what subs he was going to make in every minute, every player. You know what subs are going to happen. With Gary O'Neill, it's like, I don't think he even knows who he's going to put on. 1 week he could bring Rodrigo Gomez. He didn't play him for 3 weeks. All of a sudden he starts playing him again. Well, unless he's dramatically improved in training in the last 2 weeks, what's changed there? You know what I mean?
I think he's definitely a horses for courses, though, with that. And certain profiles of players are more suited to other games. But you do hope that when players play well in, like what Stu said earlier with pre-season, that they get more game time. Like Rodrigo Gomez, he looks like he's suited to the Premier League. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there, Stu. What was you going to say?
I was going to say, and you look at, he's one as well, where you look at last season, he played as a right wing back, and yet Gary O'Neill in his infinite wisdom wants to play with these inverted wingers nonsense all the time. Yet we've actually got a target man, so every time he gets in a position to cross the ball, he's cutting back, and then the chance is gone. They'll just play the like Brett said there in the comments, half the team is playing out of position, and it's true. Yeah, you got wing backs playing as full backs who can't defend properly.
Yeah.
You've got people like Rodrigo Gomez playing on the left when he should be playing on the right. You've got Lamina, who God knows where he's supposed to be playing half the time. I mean, there's someone said there earlier on that he could play Lamina in a kind of Cody position. And I do kind of agree with what Ishan said, that you don't want, if he goes back on it now and kind of it looks weak, but at the same time, he's admitting his mistake. So is that a kind of... I'd respect him more if he said, okay, we tried it, it didn't work, we haven't got the personnel, we didn't get backed, had a little dig at Shea, which is nice, and then said, yeah, we're going to have to get results, we're going to try and go from here, and played other Lamina, or playing Andre there seems a waste, but if Totti's fit, I wouldn't mind just bringing Totti in and having Alfie Pond on the bench, because we have to get points from somewhere, and you look at it, then you can play two in midfield, like we always have done, and play properly. And then you've got options on the bench, and then you've got Strand Larson up front, who could be served by actual wing backs, putting the ball in the box. Yeah, it almost seems too simple.
Yeah, I think there is that level of naivety to it. I want to talk a little bit more about Mosquera and what happened yesterday. It's sort of a two-part question for you, Ishan. How do you feel about the Mosquera injury and how it's set up our team going forward? But the second question, before I let you go into that one, is sort of, do you think this is sort of the first straw breaking on the camel's back? So this will be the first event that'll spiral Gary O'Neill's tenure here out of control.
It could be. It definitely could be. I still think we should keep Gary O'Neill. But I said it before, pre-season. I think we should have stuck to a back five. What I was supporting being back four, but we didn't recruit. And when we've got Dawson, who great guy, very good, decent player. When we've got him as our main centre back, we're not going to be pushing for top half or real, top five. Are we really? It is worrying. I am worried at the minute, especially when we've got big games coming up like Liverpool and City and that. I think if we play like how we did against Villa, we're going to get 5-6 past us easily. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I think this could be like the. Sorry,
no, go on, mate. Yeah.
I was just going to say this could be like the Raul injury to Nuno and how it just demoralised everyone. At that time, we took Fabio Silva in, didn't have a replacement for him, started to struggle. I don't know who comes in. I mean, to be fair, Totti, you got no choice, have you, really? He doesn't fancy Bueno, so Bueno's not going to get a look in. As soon as Totti's fit, I think even if Totti's half fit, I think even Totti has half a leg, he's going to play over Bueno. It's true though, isn't it? Because Bueno, he did not, he would, I think even when Moscow was looking down, went down, but Gary O'Neill probably looking at the bench. Bueno's probably there waving his hand, get me on, and he's probably looking past him thinking, oh, do you know what? I reckon Juan can play centre back, You know what I mean? It's like he hates him that much. Well, not hate him, but there's a dislike in there. But I think he is going to throw Totti in, isn't he? And I think just going back to what Ethan said about not having him in the back four. I don't like Totti in the back four personally, but in the back three, he was fine.
Yeah,
Inside of a back three, he was completely fine. But now we've got 3 centre backs. You can't even afford to play a back three now, can you? Really?
No, unless if he plays one of the academy lads.
That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Exactly.
I want to come forward now onto solely. I just want to talk about Gary O'Neill now. So there's been a lot of comments on the YouTube side of things. We're talking about personally. One's actually directed towards where I stand with it. So Gary O'Neill, like why I want to back him. I'll just start straight out and talk about it because you have to look at the way that he's coaching this side, and you can see an improvement in a lot of these players since they've come into the squad, and he's coached them to improve in certain areas, and he has improved the players that were here originally. My main issue is the grass is not always greener when you take the jump in terms of sacking a manager, and he's done very well. Yeah, granted, the run that we're on is really, really painful, and there will be a tipping point, and there has to be a tipping point because there always is. But we have to allow him to make the mistakes and allow him to try and build something. We understand that the teams that we've come across now and the teams that we're playing are very, very, very high level in the league, and he's making naive mistakes, but he's got to learn. If not within the squad, he is somebody that I'd love to stay at Wolves. If they bring in another head coach, I'd love for him to still be a coach, but I just don't think that would be a tenable position for him because he wants to be a head coach. He wants to be a manager at a club. And the guys who've been here, Sean Derry as well, they have been monumental in improving a lot of the young players. The players, that we've seen improve since they've come in, as Joe Gomez has improved as a player. Mario Lemina, he when he was at Fulham, he didn't look half as good as he does when he's here. You're looking at Ryan Aït-Nouri, he's become more of a fullback.
Yeah.
Wang has improved immensely last season. Yeah, he's been poor this season, but that's because he was absolutely thraped into the ground by Jurgen Klinsmann when he was in his career. He wasn't the same player after that. But if we want to back a young, talented coach who might be here for 4 or 5 years longer, then we've got to wait. And players, Cunha's mentioned in the comments as well, he's improved. When he was in Germany, he wasn't 1/10 of this player.
Yeah.
He's done a good job. He has got some of the receipts there to back him. But there will be a tipping point. So with that being said, tipping point, Stu, we caught a bit of a stir last year on Twitter.
Nothing to do with me.
Nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with Little Dan. Let's blame it all on Rich Hobbs, who isn't here and can't defend himself. So the Gonometer
is back out.
is back in business. Tell me what you think is, Stu. Where the gongonometer? Where is it? Where in your head? Let's be realistic. 24 hours on, there's dust has settled. Where are you feeling with what Gary's doing?
As you say, I've never wanted him sacked. I've never said it once since Ipswich last season, and I think our hope, Matt Hobbs' hope of European football's over now for this season.
Yeah.
So you look at it and you think, okay, what's left? So you think, okay, maybe we could get top half. Obviously, we're very early into the season, so of course we can. And you look at, I was just getting the fixtures up here, and you look at it, taking October at the way, and people always say, oh, November. And you look at November, you got Palace at home, Southampton at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home. And you look at that and you think, okay, we don't beat Palace normally. Southampton, we nearly lost to last time, if it wasn't for a ridiculous handball from Jay Adams. Fulham away is notoriously terrible for us, and Bournemouth has seemed to be our bogey side. So, as usual, playing the shit teams, so called, is not a great idea. And so, looking at it from a Doom point of view, if you go in November and you look at that, and you come out with what, less than 5 points from 12, and that's on top of the 3 we might have by that point. It's still not that bad. It's ridiculously, it's still not that bad. But we don't know what the strength of the Premier League's going to be this season. If this was last year, it wouldn't matter because you could kind of fall over yourself and stay up because the stakes were in last year. But then you go into December and you got Everton away, West Ham away, who look ridiculous at the minute. Ipswich at home, which again you'd bank on, you'd hope up for a win. Leicester away, we've never won at the King Power. Man United at home. They seem to have our number again now, and then Spurs away, which we'll get a win there.
Yeah.
So you could be looking at this, and Spurs away, end of December is our first win of the season, and if he gets to that, then he's going to have to be sacked, isn't he? He can't go into 2025 with 2 or 3 wins. It's just not possible.
No.
However much I'd like him to turn it round, you look at what happened on Bruno Lage. The similarities are there. Wasn't backed in the January. Blah 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 blah. But he showed in Benfica that when it got bad, he couldn't turn it round and end up getting sacked. He came here, he couldn't turn around, end up getting sacked. And then it happened again and again and again wherever he's gone. If this is Gary O'Neill and he can't stop a slide, then he's going to have to be sacked. When that point is, for me, the season's gone, so it doesn't matter. I think you give him... I'd give him... realistically, honestly, I would give him till the end of December because... we're not going to get anything anyway this season. We're not getting Europe. That's gone. So
no.
You're looking at what is this season then now? It's developing players, playing a different way. You push on and you go again next summer. And then when players are sold next summer and it goes on and goes. But that's a different story. For me, I would love him. Honestly, I'd love him to turn it round. But I'm too fucking old and too bald and too... too long of and too experienced at this shit to see that when you get in this state and when you have so many the writings on the wall, we all know what's going to happen. And like I wasn't even like we kept coming around away from Villa Park last night, and it was like, well, okay, I'm so numb to it already because I can just see what's going to happen. And it's not me being negative. I'm just too experienced at this shit all the time. It's Wolves. This is what happens. I am old. I'm the oldest one here. And I've got a hat on because I've got a head cold. I'm that old. But
I think that's definitely a fucking quote for the ages. I'm too bald for this shit. 2024. I mean, come on. That's fantastic.
But be serious for a second. I would love him to turn it round. Can he? Who knows? But he's got till the new year for me. I think mainly because who's going to come? Who's going to unless King D gets sacked at Everton, which is not going to happen unless they get took over, and he's a viable option and he wants to come here, then obviously get rid of him now and get the Lord in. But
you're a football pervert, you are. Stuart.
Oh man, if that comes, I'll set up an OnlyFans and anyone can subscribe to me because I'll be that fucking excited. But Gary O'Neill until 2025. There you are.
Fantastic. That was. We had some great sound bites in there. I love that.
I don't think we're going to top that, are we, really?
Gav, you're going to have to. So Dean says, Dean Marsden in the comments, he's put basically, realistically, he thinks that it's got until the next international window, the big break.
Yeah, I think
in terms of the football game of Buckaroo, how long has Gone got?
Do you know what the thing is for me? I think, like you said, Jafar at the start, you know, he's got a lot of credit in the bank, hasn't he, from what he's done, developing some of the players. You know, I think the man management that he's had, you know, convincing players like Pedence and Guedes, who looked like they were, you know, they wouldn't even, you know, turn up to the car park of the training ground, let alone actually get inside the training ground. And he managed to convince them to play and you know and stick around and want to be part of the group. So the man management's there. The players seem to like him. So I don't think he'll lose the dressing room anytime soon. But the thing is, it's the mentality thing. That's going to be such a... If you're going into who we got next? Liverpool, Brentford, City, then Brighton. If you lose all four of them, that's a hard mentality to shift, that is. The momentum's only going one way. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was thinking, you know, 2004, we went up. Albion went down. 2009, we went up. Albion went down. Albion top of the league at the minute. We're bottom of the league. The stars are aligning. You know, if December comes and they're top of the league and we're bottom of the league, it's only going one way.
That's scary.
Yeah, you know what I mean? There's too many similarities. So, you know, I think for me, he's got to win that Brentford game now. Because if you lose that Brentford game, it's such a hard mentality to shift. How can you go into... You know, we'll lose to City, you lose to Brighton. Then who's the next game? The first game, Southampton, someone, Crystal Palace at home. You know, how are you going to get the team? How are you going to get the players up for that after losing 8 games in a row or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think it's tough. As another member of the Gone In fan club, Asian, is there anybody out there who's available in terms of a manager who we could viably and realistically bring into the club? Who could make a bigger difference for this squad?
Not that I know of. I think that's the problem. When you sack a manager, the first thing you have to do is think, who can you bring in?
Yeah.
And at the minute, there's not any options to bring in. And I think it would be absolutely stupid to sack him. I think he's a good manager. 2, you've got to think about what he did for the club when he came in. So he's clearly got it. But I think, for me, the majority of the blame lies with the board. That, you know, it's ridiculous. We had a left back who can't defend, and a few weeks before the season starts, we loan out the only other left back we had. And then it was clear to me that if we had an injury at centre back, and the quality wasn't even there, like you guys were saying earlier, we've got choices now, we've got, you know, quantity now. But in there, it's quality over quantity for me.
Yeah,
and that at centre back, we might have a few players, but we don't have the quality there, and we definitely don't have the quantity now with Yersin injured. So you know, it's not really his fault, but I hope he can bounce back from it. I do think he will, because I think the attack is good, and I think, like I said earlier, we're losing games, but we are playing well at the end of the day. That's the most important thing. Are we playing well? Yes. So I think he'll bounce back from it.
Yeah, and I think there's a hope that it's still of a lot of the fans. I know it's polarized at the moment, and it's frustrating because as a club we always end up going down this sort of route down which do that we kind of hang on to something that's very negative, and it is very much the Marmite of conversation. People will either be very much on one side or very much on the other. Looking at it, you know, looking at some of the comments because obviously you can see what's being said in the YouTube comments as well. The names, Moyes, I know you joked about Deutsch. I know there's not a massive. No, I know you joked, Stu. Don't do this to me. But Rob Edwards is mentioned as well, and Potter. Do you think any of those are serious, viable candidates for changing our luck and fortune?
We know that they're not going to be the ones to replace them. That's the problem. And I know Dean said there in the comments that they'll obviously be talking in the background to potentials because that's how football works. But I don't think they will. I think you got the statements already that he's not under any pressure. That doesn't mean anything, does it? We all know what the dreaded vote of confidence is. And that hasn't happened for years, really. But I don't. Who knew the child at Brighton? Who knew who he was before they scooped him up? There's always options.
Yeah.
We just don't know. We just don't know of them, and they don't come to mind easily. But again, the morons gave him a 4-year contract, so they're not going to pay him off anyway. So it's all kind of null and void. And when they do that, they want to going to do it even cheaper. So who are we waiting around for? Probably someone like, again, waiting for Rob Edwards to be sacked at Luton, because why? He knows the club. He's cheap. He did a reasonably decent job last season with them in the Premier League to a point. You can see it a mile off. If it does go bad, and that's the thing we all said at the start of the season when the Premier League fucked us over for the 19-1 vote and gave us this fixture list, because that's what it is. Let's be honest. That we knew that we'd probably have about 6 points max from this run, and we all kind of said at the time, if we play one of them games and look like we've got a bit of fight against, then that's good enough, because we'll make it up later. But you look at it, and that's exactly what has happened. But on the flip side, he's come out and said some ridiculous stuff. Other things have gone against us. Where you look at the first half and second half performances in these games, none of that could have been predicted pre-season, because it's come from nowhere. And we've got them.
I disagree with that. It could be pre-season. I was saying, and there's a couple of other lads saying that most of the goals conceded in pre-season was Aitonori, poor defending. On was West Ham. Watch the West Ham game. You will see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, we're all good. I want to sort of move towards wrapping up. We've come past the hour mark, and I know we've all had a lot of conversation about O'Neill. I'll come to you on this, Gav.
Yeah.
One of the last slides that I've got here for the YouTube watchers and anyone watching the video live on Twitter or Facebook. The next 3 games, we are fully aware of how difficult they are. But how many points are... I feel like it's an impossible question to answer. But how many points do you think we're going to get out the next 3?
1. And that'll be a Brentford draw. Because I think Liverpool, the fact that Liverpool have only just lost to Forest recently, they're not going to lose to 2 teams like us. I mean, Forest have been all right this season, to be fair. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. But they're not going to drop points that quick in succession to Forest and Wolves without their fans having a meltdown. And I think, Slot will get them into shape. Can't see us winning there. City, we beat them last season. What's the odds? We beat them 2 years in a row. Very slim. Brentford away. It's hit and miss. You'd hope that they'll be up for it and they understand the pressure of the game. And, I could probably see a win there. But most likely I could see a point. Brentford away, and that's it for the next 3 games for me.
Yeah.
Do you, looking at the fixture list there, Ishan? I mean, we've got that, and I think Dan's put a fantastic comment in the YouTube here. Dua Lipa says it all. 1 win is all it takes. Do you think that's going to be the moment that kicks our season on, or do you think we're still going to be struggling come at back end of October?
I think we're still going to be struggling. We haven't got... I'm going to keep on saying it, defence is too weak, personally. And, I think out of all those games left, I think whether it's my optimism or my naivety, because I'm not as old as Stu, I haven't got much experience in.
Or bald.
All bald. Not bald. Not like him yet. I don't think... I think Liverpool, we could get a draw there, scrape a draw, if we get lucky. I think Brentford, we're going to win. But I think Man City, that's where I'm worried. I think they're going to come. I think Haaland, and they're just going to expose the left-hand side of our defence. So, yeah.
Looking at that game, Stu, Man City, Rodri's out, potentially a season-ending injury. Kevin De Bruyne is out. Is now as good a chance as any to try and nick a point, or is it? Am I on high on spice again?
Well, no, I mean that's the key to when we beat them last time. Rodri didn't play, did he? So, and I haven't watched any football today, so I don't know. I didn't watch that game, so I can't say. But Man City are always so strange, where they've always got something in them. Like they'll randomly lose to Brentford or Palace at home just out of nowhere, or like us last season. it really wouldn't surprise me after all this talk that we get like 4 points out of that run out of nowhere again, like it's happened in the past. I can't see any of them points being against Liverpool. Weirdly enough, I think that could be kind of horrible, especially being live on Sky. But yeah, Brentford. I'm going to say a point to Brentford, and then beating Man City again just because it's a Wolves thing to do. It doesn't make any sense, and realistically, I wouldn't expect any points from this at all, given how we've played this season and now how we defensively screwed even more than we were. But if I put a bet on, I would say 4 points. I don't know why.
I'll take it.
If it comes up, I'm glad to use the why is Stu always right about this football club? Because I'll be happy with that. Honestly, I think this is and to come back to when we were talking about the gongonometer and the tipping point. I think the end of October is probably the tipping point and how we perform in these next 3 games.
Yeah.
I think that's as good a point as anywhere to wrap it up, to be honest. I think we have got the Liverpool game coming up shortly. There will be previews on our YouTube for that. Keep an eye on all the socials. We will have the FC quiz.app going up on there the Friday before the Liverpool game. And don't forget to keep an eye on the merch as we constantly update it. So for those watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, there's our FC quiz.app, and we have got the merch this season if you want to have a look. There's no gone out merch yet. There might be. we don't know where we go from here. Keep a close eye on it. But yeah, if you want to check us out, that's wolvesfancast.tmill.com. That's wolvesfancast.teemill.com. I hope for everyone listening, whether it be live, whether it be on the morning on your way to work, anyone who's watching on YouTube now or watches later on, I hope we go forward and improve from here, and we can all back the team and we can have a fantastic end to this season. I know we're saying this really early on, but I think we've got to try and push together from here. And I appreciate everyone for coming on. I appreciate you boys talking so honestly about it. And I appreciate everyone who's been involved in the comments, from the downright crazy to really, helping to drive the interaction with this and to give us some good talking points as well. So thank you very much. Thank you guys for joining me tonight and sharing. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, Wolves fans. We'll catch you next time.